Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for just a couple minutes late there. Had to do something with the computer real quick, but I am here. This is United versus Everybody. I am your host, Sean. You all are the UVE community. So glad to be back this morning. I've said it many times. I'll say it again. Results like yesterday are exactly why I wait a night to do match reactions. I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me rant and rave on the internet because that's just, I'm just not like that. And I'm sure that you guys don't want to watch me just throw a temper tantrum. We're all doing that yesterday. I'm sure we were all, punching and kicking and swearing and yelling and throwing shit. I get it. We probably were. Um, of course, right? But we're all here. We like to take a second to get out of our feels a little bit, and have a little bit more reflection, a little bit more analytical approach, a little bit more observation to the way things went down yesterday. So we'll leave the ranting and raving to AFTV. No offense. Danny B in the house. How are you doing, my guy? Good to see you. Box, good morning too as well. Hope you're doing well, everybody. Anybody else get hit by snow? It's just nonstop all weekend. I have literally a foot of snow outside. Not looking forward to because I've got to run some errands, but anyway, hope everybody's doing well, staying warm, staying safe. Box agreed. Too many ranting channels. Like, I'm not trying to criticize the channels. Like, everybody, you do your thing. A lot of people like it. If you've got a big following, go for it. It's just not my thing, personally. I mean, again, I've said many times, I may be boring, but at least I'm me. No matter what, you get is me. This is how I am with everybody. So boring or not, it is what it is. But we're gonna dive into the match today. We're gonna save news, transfer news, United news. We're gonna save that for a little later on this afternoon. We'll come back with another show because I'm finding that trying to squeeze in news in these previews and the match reactions and stuff is really kind of stretching things out. So want to maybe keep these things a little bit more distinct from one another, if that makes sense. So we'll come back a little later on for a transfer news and an update because there is a bit to talk about. Plus, it's Monday. We generally do see a bit of news on Monday, so we might have more to talk about this afternoon. But until then, we're going to dive into the match reaction because I want to know what you guys thought. I'm sure if you saw the thumbnail, you're probably like, Sean, what the hell? How was it better? I'm going to talk about how I think it was better. Again, these are just my thoughts, my perspective, my opinion. I'm here, though, because I want yours. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to get stuck in. Big up, Nick, in the house. Good deal, man. Good to see you again. Welcome back. Danny says we got buried Saturday night. Rained yesterday. Well, at least you got the rain. I don't know how close you are to the water. I mean, usually when you're close to the ocean, you don't get as much snow. But Box says match was familiar story. Spells of United play on the front foot. Spells under heavy pressure. Near misses. Yeah. I thought some parts looked good. Some parts obviously more the same, and then some parts just not good enough. But that's why I'm here. I want to talk about all that. So starting as always with your thoughts on the starting 11. Now I know I posted the matchday squad on the channel when it came out, when it was released, and pretty much that bench looked like the starting 11 from the academy. It was filled with youngsters. I'm sure a lot of us probably were familiar. So we got Eli Harrison, Harry Amos Fredrickson, Aiden Heaven, Lindelof, Jack Fletcher, Sekou Kone, Morehouse, and Cheeto were all in the bench. And then obviously, the starting 11 was basically everybody that was fit, including both Xerxes and Hoyland starting together, which has only happened, I think, one other time. And we talked about that a little bit in the build-up, that maybe Xerxes could start in one of those 10 roles. And we're going to talk about that because he didn't look bad. Now, again, a lot of people are out there like, Sean, I can't believe you're hyping up Xerxes for this. Like, we didn't even score. Like, I get it. But I'm trying to take it within context, put a boundary around, not trying to extrapolate everything. I can only react and give my thoughts on what I saw on the day. And that's what we're here for. Bruno and Casemiro pivot, which is something that we thought maybe could happen. We put that vote out there the other day. So, and then, Dorgu on the left, which I thought was a good call. And we're going to talk a little bit about that more later on. Nick got buried, but no Thomstone. I don't know what Thomstone is. Rasmus time nearly up. He's regressing. We're going to talk a little bit about Hoyland because I've got thoughts on Hoyland too. Not too many thoughts because I don't think it was horrible from Hoyland. I thought that not when we're using him the way he really needs to be used and not as his hold up striker. We've seen what can happen. We saw how many attacks. So we're going to talk about that. Teresa, welcome back. Hi, everyone watching the highlights. I notice Amorim's tactics coming alive. Pundits are being nasty. They have no idea what his tactics were. They tactically paying attention to the game. Yeah, I mean, the more Stephen Warnock opens his mouth, the less the less brain cells I think he actually has, and the less I think he honestly actually watches the matches, because it's freaking ridiculous the kind of shit that guy spouts. Box says the confidence of the whole team looks low, making sloppy passes, shaky, unconvincing shooting, clearances. Daniel says his IQ is bad. Yeah, Rasmus Højlund doesn't have the greatest footballing IQ, but I think that the deeper you play, the more you're going to see that your footballing IQ is going to have to be important, whether that's defense, deep in midfield. Like Højlund is right now, he's a finisher. That's just what he is. And so as far as his footballing IQ goes, it's probably going to be limited to movement in and around the final third at the moment. So hopefully he can get there. Again, we know that footballers don't all develop at the same rate, especially strikers. A lot of that kind of movement from strikers you're going to see when they're older, unless you're just an absolute freak like Erling Haaland or something. But Rich, welcome back. Kids can't be much worse than what we watch week in, week out. We were hopeful. We were hopeful. Rich says we could create 50 chances and only score. I'm just happy that we got forward last night. So let's talk a little bit about the match here. Some stats and some standouts. We were back to a counterattacking side a little bit. It looked like we were, getting forward a lot of vertical passes, a lot of runs off the ball, a lot of runs into the channel, a lot of balls played in around the touchline, whipped around defense, because Spurs were throwing a lot of people forward, like we talked about in the build-up, that left an opportunity to play those balls over the top. That's what you have to do against teams who play a higher line, against teams who flood their fullbacks up with their wingers and try to get numbers forward. That leaves them very exposed, and I'm happy that we took advantage of that. It's a crime that we weren't more clinical, but I like what I saw. Yeah, that's what I mean by better. We had, in the first half, it was more like that. We had 34% possession, a lot of those vertical passes, a lot of long balls, a lot of progressive runs. We just couldn't quite get that final ball down. We only had 2 accurate crosses in the first half. Just 2 shots on target in the first half for an XG of 0.47. Again, we were getting forward. We just needed to do better with those shots. We won a load of duels compared to Spurs as well. We played a lot of good football, I thought, in that first half. It was just, I kind of was getting the feeling like we're creating a lot of these opportunities. We're getting the ball forward. We're quick. We're aggressive. We're going to get something. Surely we have to get something. It was very fluid, good passing, good movement. And look at that. We find runs and we create something. Højlund made a run. We found him. He cooked the ball up. And ultimately, we got a corner from it. Like, these are the kind of things that I want to see more of. Quicker play, up the tempo, looking for those runs, getting the ball forward. Everything that we've been talking about, everything that I wanted to see, we saw yesterday. It was just that final little ball was just not on. Defensively, though, we were struggling a bit. We were a little static. We couldn't handle a lot of the movement. We couldn't handle a lot of the overloads that Spurs were throwing in wide areas. We were chasing shadows a lot in midfield. Now, Bruno didn't help a lot with that. We're going to talk about that. It was frustrating because it literally looks like every team we play is fitter than us. More energy, more fight, stronger, first to everything, whether that's the first ball, the second ball. It just always looks like we're just tired, and it's so annoying. Obviously, Spurs got that goal. Second half, we reverted to type a little bit, especially when we were playing out the back. We started slowing down. It's really frustrating. On Højlund again, Højlund really could have had an equalizer, but the problem was Garnacho was being just a little bit selfish, and some of Garnacho's final ball decision making was just bad, and we've seen that for a little while now. But we still managed to continue with wave after wave of attack. We upped our possession by 20% in the second half, up to like 54%. We also doubled our XG in the second half. Now, again, Spurs kind of allowed that to happen a little bit. We tripled our crosses in the second half. We also doubled our tackles and our interceptions. So we got more into the game in the second half, which we have seen under Amorim, but it's just, again, it's too little too late, and it just wasn't good enough with the chances that we were getting. And Amorim said the same thing. You'd almost forgive the attackers for forgetting how to finish, considering how we barely got the ball into the final third recently, but almost. But I did like a lot of what I saw from us in the attack in terms of the fluidity, the tempo, the chances we were starting to get into. It just took too long to get that going to start getting more accurate final ball. We had a little bit too much selfishness going on from some players, and then again, just wasn't clinical enough in front of that. Really, really annoying. Let's see what we got. I got to catch up here, hopefully here. Rich says, it's for this reason I'd sell Garnacho, Hoyland for a decent offer. Says Rich. Box says, the trouble is Hoyland, Manu, Dorgu, Garnacho all need to be bench players eased in, yet we rely on them on key starters. I would agree to a certain extent right there, right? I think that, they're all young. I mean, the oldest one in that 4 box is Hoyland, and he literally just turned 22. We shouldn't be relying on a striker who just turned 22 for multiple, like 20 goals a season. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And again, I keep banging the drum. People forgetting what Hoyland did last season in his first season, but you have to look at back of all the other strikers we bought recently, like how well Cavani did his first season. Literally like the same number of goal involvements as Hoyland, but then second season dipped. Ronaldo, really pretty much the same goal involvements as Hoyland his first season when he got here in 21-22. The second season dipped. For some reason, we get these strikers, and they come in first season and they do well. They get 15, 16 goal involvements, and then they dip. Now, again, 15, 16 goal involvements is not enough from a striker. I need someone who's going to get us at least 20 in the league, preferably. But the problem is, like, they start strong and then they dip, every single one of them. It's really frustrating. If you guys could figure out why that happened, you let me know. Then he says, compare his heat map to other strikers in the league. Well, his heat map in the last couple months has probably just been a blob in the middle of the pitch because that's where we've been playing him. But Danny says still try to back him till next season. We just need an older striker by Hoyland. I don't know if Xerxes is even a striker, and Amorim had some thoughts on that too. We're going to talk about that. But we need an older striker with Hoyland to work with him, to give him some advice and stuff. Like it's just he's too young to lead the line. Like how many strikers who are 20, 21, 22 now, he just turned a couple weeks ago. How many strikers that age are in charge of basically the entirety of the goal output for their sides? How many strikers have we had relied upon that for at United over the years? Yeah, people are going to throw out guys like Rooney, but when Rooney came in, we had like 3 other strikers at the club still. Like it's not like Rooney came in as a teenager and yeah, he was world class, but it's not like that's what his job was. He was still getting involved gradually. Teresa says the youngsters on the bench, they haven't all trained full time, and some had matches a day or so. Well, the academy also plays this afternoon. They play Fulham as well, so we're going to see what happens there. Box says the keeper is a big issue. Onana is very shaky, sets the tone. Yeah, we're going to talk about Onana because I'm about done with Onana personally. Box says Dalu was the cause of the goal. He left his man. Son free didn't check over his shoulder. Once Son should have never received that cross so easily. Yeah, Dalu's got a problem closing down attackers. He's done that a couple times. Box says Dorgu's final ball and attacking play looks good. I'm going to disagree with you there because I've got thoughts on Dorgu, but Dorgu was actually putting in some really good numbers. He was getting involved. The problem was with the wingbacks in many situations yesterday, because Spurs were putting their fullbacks forward along and getting those overloads. Our wingbacks were kind of hemmed in a little bit. We couldn't get some breathing room. Danny says terrible finish from Garnacho. Yeah, I've got thoughts on Garnacho, Danny. We're going to talk about him. We're going to keep going here through some of these numbers here because individually it was a mixed bag. Some players looked better. Some players were poor. Bruno, I thought, was sloppy, misplaced a lot of simple passes, had some really poor touches on the ball, overcommitted to several challenges, sliding in. Like, what was he doing with that Casemiro slide? Like, that was embarrassing because he completely took himself out of the game and gave 2 or 3 Spurs players nothing but space in that midfield. And a couple of his passes did that. He gifted Spurs a counterattacking opportunity on a couple different occasions by just playing poor passes. Granted, that one he played for, I think it was either Dorgu or Garnacho later on, just that through ball, like that raking switch. That was a thing of beauty. He can do that, and that's why we need him in the side. But the same, and I know I've said this many times, like Bruno is one of those players who can frustrate you for 89 minutes, but then do some bit of magic in the 90th minute. I get that, and I say that because it's true, but at the same time, would we be better for a player who can maybe give a couple rating points down from that magic, but can be a little bit more consistent over the 90 minutes? You guys let me know. But yeah, he was caught a little too high up the pitch. Sometimes he was kind of following Spence around when he really needed to sit a little deeper. He left a massive hole in the midfield when he was doing that. I mean, we've talked about that. We've talked about his lack of positional discipline a lot. Bruno does like to go on a bit of a walkabout. He's kind of like the Taibbi of midfielders. Or sorry, the Barthez. But then again, when you look at some of his numbers on the day, Bruno, it tells a different story. And this is why the eye test and the stats need to go hand in hand, because he had the most tackles in the match, made 2 interceptions, won 8 out of 10 duels, created 4 chances. He made 14 passes into the final third, and he completed 13 to 17 long balls. So again, from a deeper role, it didn't look bad. He's just got to maintain his discipline a little bit when his positioning, because that's what's really leaving us exposed. The problem too, again, is we're limiting him as far as his involvement in the final third. His crossing was shit again. 4 out of 11 crosses. Again, not good enough. People wondering why we're not getting goals, because our crossing and some of the decision making in the final third, and yes, some of the finishing, is just not good enough. It's not just one thing. It's a combination of a lot of that stuff that's killing us right now in the final third and that final phase of attack. I don't know what you guys think about Bruno in that pivot. Does it work in a pinch? Is that where you guys want him? You guys let me know. Casemiro started. It's been a little while. Casemiro's been chatting a little bit today about his United contract. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. But he did win the most duels in the match, Casemiro. He won 11 duels. He created 2 chances on his own, 5 touches in the box, 3 out of 4 long balls. He was doing just the what he needed to do, basically. Still looked slow. He got away. He was walking a tightrope for a little bit, and then I was surprised to see him come on in the second half after picking up that yellow late in the first half, because he looked like a second yellow waiting to happen, Casemiro. But you guys let me know, because I'm about to go in hard on somebody here. Tree says, in my opinion, pundits and fans are way out of line, having a discussion and talking crap about what they have no idea of is destructive and not building up. Yeah, guys, I mean, I have no problem with the criticism. This is why I say I've tried to limit it to what I see in a match. I'm not going to take a couple of poor touches from Højlund and say that he's a shit striker. Like, I don't think that's fair, because it's not accurate. I think it's easy to take the very isolated things and try to generalize them and try to say, well, I gave you a couple matches, you're done. You're not, because he's not scoring a banger every single match, that all of a sudden means he's a shit striker. Like, I'm not like that. I'm not calling anyone out for doing it. I'm just saying I'm not like that. So if that's what you guys are wanting, that's you coming to the wrong channel. Box says the Garnacho shot was shocking. Yeah, Garnacho has got this is the thing, you guys. We talk about Højlund, but Garnacho has been playing at this level in this league for longer than Højlund has, and he really should be doing better, especially with that sitter. Box says Xerxes' header should be going in. Maybe Xerxes needs to shave his hair. Maybe that hair is making a little too of a slick when he's coming in on the header. But I was really frustrated. That should have gone in. I was really frustrated with that one. Bruno, Box says, I see Bruno's corners are very much like Arsenal's, right in the box, causing big danger, but we don't capitalize. Yeah, his corners were better. Bruno's corners are usually shit, though, unfortunately. Danny thinks Bruno's terrible. Bruno, again, watching him positioning, you're like, dude, just sit in midfield. What are you doing? But then again, looking at the numbers, you're like, okay, well, it's hard to argue with some of those numbers. But again, this is why you can't only look at the eye test, and this is why you can't only look at the stats, because you have to find a way to make them work together to give. And that's what that does, is give you an ultimate picture. Like, looking at one is like looking at a coloring book that's blank, but look, and what you bring in the other, that's like actually coloring it in. It gives you the full picture. And sometimes the picture is great, sometimes it's not, but you have to try to make a way to fit both in there. Box says Bruno set a chance on the plate. Yeah, he did. He said it, and it is what it is. Danny says Bruno needs to go. And that being said, Danny, you know how I feel. If a Saudi club came back in this summer with a big offer for Bruno, I'm selling him, because that's just what I'm doing. You guys know I don't have any sort of sentimental value for shit. Look around my house. I don't keep shit. If I'm not using it, I'm done with it. It just is what it is. Box says a little creativity you have right now will be zero when Bruno goes. Unless we find a way to replicate that and do some scouting and some actual recruitment. There are a lot of players like that out there, and there's a lot of young players who might be able to get to that level with a little bit of development and coaching. It's just, that's where you need to trust your scouts. You need to trust your data, your analysts, your recruitment. Yeah, and that's why we have to do that. You can't always just buy £100 million star. You have to try to make those sometimes, and we need to do better with that. Danny says cannot play 8 anymore. It's suicide. I think that if he can't be a little bit more disciplined, and again, I think in a pinch against certain opposition when you might have a little bit more of the ball, maybe. But I've said many times, it's not where I want him to play. Bach says, it must be frustrating playing with Dross every week. De Bruyne would be wasted. Yeah, you stick any other world-class player in this side, they're not making a difference. It just is what it is. Teresa says, bottom line, these are professional players. How hard is it to learn a new system? It's been 3 months. I hear you. These are Champions League winners. Some of them have over the years been World Cup winners, like Lissandro, for instance. Some of these guys are senior players, full internationals. Like, I hear you. I totally hear you. Now, it's not just the system that Amorim is changing. It's not just like, hey, you're being asked to play wingback now. He's trying to change the way a lot of these players think and really process the game on a different level. It's like the way that they're playing up here. He's trying to work on that to get them to see things differently, which is a little more difficult, especially when you're older, especially when a lot of these players are more counterattacking. A lot of them don't have a high level of footballing IQ, and a lot of the mentality, just the resilience and the intrinsic ability to motivate yourself is just not there. That's just the way it is. Lionheart's big up. Good to see you, my friend. All right, let me keep going here for a second, because we're going to talk about Garnacho. I had to take a break there because I'm going to go in hard. He was frustrating, Garnacho. On the ball, he was frustrating. He did manage to win all of his tackles, 2 out of 2, and he made 3 interceptions. So he was getting stuck in a little bit. But the problem was, on the ball, he was atrocious. He missed that sitter in the 23rd minute. That was frustrating. I literally, when he missed that, I stood up and said, fuck off. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, you can't be doing that. We can't afford to miss those opportunities. And his conversion rate has nosedived. I read a stat now, 2 in 14 chances he's converted. That's the worst conversion rate in the league right now, Garnacho. He can't be missing sitters like that. Not when we're struggling for goals, not when we're getting limited opportunities. He cannot be doing this. And this has been the problem with United over the years. It's not a Højlund thing. It's not an Amorim thing. It is strikers have not been taking opportunities in the last several years. We saw this many times under Jose. How many times did Paul Pogba hit the crossbar when he played for us? Right? It's a problem. I don't know if it's just a pressure thing. People are already thinking about all this other what if before they even take the shot. I have no idea, but it's been a problem. So it's not just this thing. Don't let recency bias make you think it's just an Amorim or a Højlund or even a Garnacho thing. It's infecting everybody. But he shouldn't be missing sitters like that, Garnacho. And he needs to pass the ball in the final phase of attack. After that, so I got a little bit of hope in that FCSB match when he was starting to flash these balls across the box more frequently. The problem is we didn't have any strikers on the pitch that match. But he's reverting to type. He completely ignored Dorgu's runs left and right when Dorgu was just like getting into perfect positions to get a ball in with that left foot. Problem is Garnacho wants the glory. He wants the shot. He wants to break his duck. He basically was using Dorgu as a decoy the whole time so he could take the shot himself, which fine, whatever. But if you're going to do that, you have to convert those chances. You have to at least force the keeper to do something, and Garnacho just wasn't. And he didn't have any completed dribbles on the night, Garnacho. So these are things that he's really got to improve on, because he's running out of time for me. I don't know about you, to work on these things, because if not, he's going to go down the same road that Rashford did, where the simple things he never improved, the decision making, the passing, all that stuff. Garnacho is going to go down the same road if he doesn't work on that. Goals says, welcome, Goals, good to see you. Casemiro would look okay in midfield 3. He was in a 3 with midfield stars as prime at Madrid. Few players can survive in a pivot at United. It has never worked. Yeah, we've talked about, that video from the other week about maybe ways to tweak the system a little bit, because Amorim has played a 3-5-2 in the past. He can play it again. We can pack that midfield a little bit, get multiple runners up the pitch. You can use the wing backs, and you can maybe underlap them a little bit, get them a little bit more involved in the channels, in the build-up as well. There are ways to do it that don't require Amorim to abandon his principles, but I do agree that we maybe need to shore up that midfield a little bit, especially right now when we're missing so many midfielders. Goal says, McFred struggled, McPogba suffered, Cass, Eric struggled, yeah. Pivots are hard. They do require a lot from you, and especially an amorim's pivot, because it's not a pivot of like sixes like a Ten Hag. It is a pivot of like halfway between a 6 and an 8, where you're gonna have to do a little bit more, and so it's rough. Box says wants to see Ugarte, Collier, Fernandez, Xerxes. Yeah, I mean, when we get some fit players, it would be great. I haven't heard any updates on Collier and Ugarte. Maybe by the time we come back this afternoon, we'll see something there. George, when you watch United games 24 hours later, everything looks different. Emotions skew memory and opinions. Yes, George, I always watch the games twice. Once to watch it and enjoy it live, and then another to go back and look at everything besides the ball, which I think is just, good to do if you have the time, or if you care. Not everyone does. I get it. But yes, this is also why I wait a night to do the match reaction if my schedule permits. I'll always try to wait a night to do it, so we're not all ranting and raving. But I get you. Then it says he played a 3-5-2. It looked at times. Yeah, we kind of sit in like a 5-4-1 a little bit, without the ball, and so we do get a lot of numbers. But the problem is all of our numbers are in defense. We need to pack that midfield a little bit more. I would like to start trying to win the ball a little higher up the pitch rather than just trying to soak up pressure with a back five and then try to build up again. We can win the ball a little higher up the pitch with some numbers and some movement and some physicality. I think it would put us in a lot better position rather than having to always try to build out from the back, because we're struggling with that right now. Teresa says, in my opinion, the players don't like the run. They prefer to walk the field, wait for the ball to drop in front of their feet. It's upsetting, as Amorim has never lost more than 3 games in a row. Well, we do that here at United. We just kill everybody. Whether you're a good player, good coach, as soon as you arrive at this club, you're infected just like everything else. And then as soon as you leave, you tend to do fine. I mean, Ashley Young went to Inter and immediately won a title with Inter. Anthony's scoring bangers left and right at Real Betis. Now, again, I think Real Betis is pretty much Anthony's level. I don't think he can do it in the Prem. But again, this is what happens at United. So on Xerxes, though, someone mentioned Xerxes. I thought he was actually better in this 10 role than I've seen him play in a while. A lot of good dribbles, a lot of nutmegs, a lot of really good work on the ball. Really, his ability to hold on to the ball yesterday was really good. Took it to a different level. His touch, it was all good from him. And he nearly had that header, too. Now, again, it wasn't great. Like I said, better. When I say better, but still bad, I say better than what I've seen. Doesn't mean it was great. Better is still a very, very low bar right now. Better is still below 0 for a lot of these players. Amorim pretty much likes Xerxes as a 10. He said, I think Josh is not a clear 9. He played more as a 10. He's stronger physically. He's working really hard. And he played in a better position for him. I think Xerxes in that 10 role can do a job. I don't know what you guys think. Hakuna Matata, welcome back. Good to see you, my friend. We are just kind of walking through a little bit of the standout players, and then I'm going to dive into my 3 thoughts. So get your thoughts in as we're going along, because I'm about to go in on another player right now. And it took me a little bit to get to this point. Danny says, yeah, Xerxes is definitely better in 10. Yeah, I like Xerxes a lot in that 10 role. Now, it doesn't mean he's great. Doesn't mean I wouldn't want to see someone else improve in that, but he did better. All right, so I'm trying not to. I gotta take a deep breath. Let me woosah for a second. I'm done with Andre Onana. I'm done with Andre Onana constantly parrying shots back into the danger zone instead of just off to the side, or I don't know, fucking catch it. I don't know what to tell you. Like, his shot stopping has got to be some of the worst I've ever seen. He's had some good saves earlier this season, to his credit, but he's so shaky. And someone said earlier, yeah, he's so shaky. He's so not confident. How many times have we seen that happen? Ball comes right at him, and instead of just making the simple catch, or even, like I said, putting it off to the side like you're supposed to, it's right back in front of him. And how many goals have we conceded because of that? We just, it's ridiculous. We did it at Leicester. We did it against Brighton. We just did it again yesterday. Is it time for me to do a goalkeeper transfer target video? For fuck's sake. I'm so done with this guy. He's got to be I can't. I could just keep repeating myself. It's so frustrating. I'm getting frustrating. I can't find words right now. And again, and I blame a lot of that goal on him. But what the hell was everybody else doing? Like Danny said, Dallo just standing off his man, letting that shot come in. De Ligt completely losing track of Madison. Nobody's following that. And again, that's the same thing we saw against Leicester too. A shot comes in, the defense just stops, not realizing maybe this ball could come back out and do something. Against Brighton, shot goes in off the bar. Everyone's just standing there, completely losing track of the opponent who's following up the play. Like, it's basic. It's just shit, man. It's just poor from the back line altogether. It was so annoying, man. Box says Onana far too erratic. He just doesn't look confident anymore. His confidence has been shaken, like, seriously. George wants to know, from my experience in football, honestly, have you seen a manager like Amorim turn it around and avoid the chop at Giant Club? Personally, I'll be surprised if Amorim surprised. I don't think Amorim's going anywhere. I think it's a bit harsh to ask for him to leave already. Again, and he's got a very specific system, a system that we've never played at this club. He came in mid-season. You don't sack a manager mid-season if things are going well. We were, 12th, 13th when we sacked Ten Hag, and that was already in November. It was a big ask for him to come in and do anything. He didn't have a preseason. He only got really one, arguably first-team player, because Dorgu's still just 20 in January. We lost some players. We had a lot of injuries this week as well. Give him until next summer at least, because right now it's a bit harsh. Like I've said, I do need him to make a few changes. I do need him to find a way to get more from these players. I do need him to stop experimenting. I get that. I'm not saying there's nothing that he can't, like, he still has some things that he can do, but I'm not ready to go Amorim out quite yet. Danny says, Onana is a joke. Don't get me started. I'm so frustrated. As soon as that happened, I literally started punching my couch. I was so frustrated. Because it's just the same shit from him all the time. He's like, your job is to stop these shots, to make these saves. And every time it happens, he looks like he just pissed his pants, because he looks terrified to have to face a shot. He looks like he's not even focused. And it's so annoying. And it's cost us so many times. Let me drink some water, because I'm so annoyed right now. Mazraoui, a bit up and down from Maz. He struggles a little bit against pace. We've seen him get done by some quick wingbacks and quick wingers, and he was struggling against Jed Spence. Somehow we made Jed Spence look fucking amazing. Don't ask me how that happens, but he was also slipping all over the place. I tweeted, like, after his third time, I'm like, go change your boots, Maz. Like, Højlund was slipping, Maz was slipping, whether they didn't water the pitch or what, but that was annoying. He did make some really, really good key blocks, though, especially when we were under some sustained pressure, which is, you need that. You need players who are just going to come in and throw their body in the way and help out. So, didn't do bad. Dalot, on his better side, he looked half decent at times, if I'm being super generous, but again, he just looks a little weak defensively still. Like we're saying, just he needs to do better at closing down space in those 1v1s. Some of his attempts to make these switches they were just weak, like super, super weak. And eventually, just like the other day, some of those, they just went straight to a Spurs player yesterday. It's just, you got to do better, man. Like, if you're going to make that ball, you have to make that ball. You at least have to beat through the midfield. They weren't even making it across midfield. De Ligt was rock solid. 9 clearances, 4 blocks, 3 tackles. He wasn't dribbled past once and lost 100% of his duels. Again, the only thing I saw from him that I didn't like was just completely forgetting about Maddison for that goal, and just kind of rooted to the spot when that shot came in, and then just didn't realize Maddison was behind him. And that, you can't do that. Not when you're the leader that he is, the experience that he has. You can't do that in these games. Under the situation that we're in right now, we can't afford to make those simple mistakes, and that was a simple mistake. He just wasn't alert to the danger. But again, that was the problem for our defense altogether, and it's been like that for a couple weeks now. We're not clearing the ball. We're not alert to the runners. Static, not when there's so much opposition movement all around us. We just don't know what to do. We're at 6s and 7s a lot in those situations. And really, when we're penned in as a back five shouldn't be this leaky. We shouldn't be letting this many chances flash across the face of goal. We shouldn't. Someone needs to step up in that back line and be a leader, be vocal, be organizing everybody. I don't care who it is, but someone needs to do it. It's really getting on my nerves. Danny says, Maguire playing too deep is killing Maz when he pushes up tight to the attacker. No organization. Yeah, Maguire, again, this is where communication, leadership. If Maguire wants to get on the ball and carry it up the pitch, everyone's got to know what to do in that situation. And everyone's got to have, like, the rest defense has to be good, because he could very easily lose the ball very, very easily under a little bit of pressure. We've seen him lose the ball under pressure in his own back line he's carrying all the way to midfield, that's going to take him out of the game either way. Where's everyone at when that situation happens? Where's the midfield dropping in a little deeper? Everyone wants to keep going, but we need someone to take some ownership of that situation. Bach says, no one leads at the back, only Evans does. Licha used to. Licha is very vocal in the back, and I'm hoping that De Ligt can do that. But when you come in as a new signing, sometimes it can maybe feel like it's not your place yet. Maybe you don't want to step on any toes. I don't know. But De Ligt is a natural leader. He's captain Ajax when he was a teenager. He is a leader. He needs to just recognize that that's part of who he is. And if we want to stop making these simple mistakes in the back, he's got to step up and just what. Like I said many times, I don't care if you don't wear the armband. It doesn't mean you can't be a leader. De Ligt is a leader. Mazraoui is a leader. Maguire is a leader. Bruno should be a leader. Casemiro, like someone's got to step up. Delo really should be a leader. He's 25, 26 now. George says, can you see the United getting 20 points to the end of the season? I heard and will verify that every position in the table is $3 million more for the club. Money may make Ratcliffe pull the trigger soon. Yeah, but if at most you're probably going to get maybe another couple positions up the table. Sorry. So the cost of sacking Amorim is not going to offset that cost. I don't think Amorim is going anywhere. This was Ineos's appointment. I think if they had backed him more in January, if they'd been able to back him more in January, if they had been a little bit proactive about strengthening in January, maybe that would put a little bit more pressure on him. But what pressure can you have when you're coming in mid-season? The players that we've all been criticizing for years are still doing the same shit that got other managers sacked. And he doesn't really get any new players. What else? I mean, that would be the most unfair situation to sack a manager in my opinion. But everyone's going to have a different opinion. Let's talk about my thoughts. Hit that like button if you haven't for me yet. Really appreciate the conversation. I love getting you guys involved. So I'm going to start going with my thoughts. You guys know that's what we always do, starting with number one. We're better going forward. Whether it was Amorim's system starting to take shape or just, good old-fashioned fluid counterattacking, I thought in the attack we looked better on the day. I'm not going to say like, yes, this is it, we're back. I'm saying on the day, compared to the last games, compared to what we've been seeing, it was better. Again, able to get the ball forward, switches, forward patches along the touchline, excellent dribbling and ball carrying from some key players like Xerxes. And again, like I've been asking for, like I pleaded for in my 5 steps to save the season video, the tempo was quicker. A lot of 1-2 touches, a lot of really good movement that allowed us to get the ball forward. And each time we did, like I said, you got the feeling like we were going to get a goal. Again, the problem was the shit finishing. We weren't clinical enough. Bad decision making, a little selfish play, holding on to the ball a little too much from like Garnacho and shit. I thought we looked much better on the counter in general than when we try to build out from the back or when we try to use our strikers as hold-up players. Again, that's not their job. I don't like playing out from the back with this squad. But again, this raises the question, is replacing an entire squad necessarily the answer if they play well with this counterattacking play? We saw under Rude, we saw under Ollie, a lot of these players do well when they can counterattack. Is it necessary to replace the entire squad if that's the players that you have? I'll let you guys decide that one for yourself. But for now, what all Amorim can do and what I think he really needs to start doing is finding a balance between his system and then utilizing the key strengths of the players he has. It doesn't mean abandoning principles. It just, there's got to be a balance there. You can still play your system and still attack like these players are good at. We saw a little bit of it yesterday. We started to see a little bit of it against Leicester. There's a way we can do it. He's got to figure it out quicker, because otherwise we're still gonna struggle and nothing's gonna change. But you guys let me know your thoughts on that. Like I said, it was better going forward. Not great, but better comparatively speaking. Again, context. Moving on. Number 2. Dorgu's the difference. I know it's difficult to see a silver lining amidst all the shit right now, but there are some positives. And like I said, one of them, in my opinion, was Patrick Dorgu. And I'm not trying to hype him up because he's a new signing and it's a player that I like or whatever. I'm not trying to do that. Full league debut for the new signing, and in his preferred side, like I said, the left-hand side. But again, I thought he was a huge difference maker. He had really good passing, good movement. He was physical, lacking a little bit defensively on some occasions, but not unlike Lecce though. He was tracking back. He was getting stuck in. made a number of key recoveries, key tackles. He was always willing to run back and get involved. But he's getting there. But I still thought he was a definite improvement on the left-hand side. He also seemed what stood out to me more is that we played with a little bit more, and we looked a little bit more relaxed at times with a trustworthy outlet on the left. It allows other players a little bit of breathing room, not having to constantly stop and wait for like Dallo to cut back onto his right to do anything. They didn't have to compensate for the deficiencies of the players that have played there before. He made 10 final third passes, all of which were completed, 5 crosses on the day, 2 chances created, 2 touches in the box, had a shot, won 8 of 9 duels, 4 out of 4 tackles, and again, made a clearance as well. Like, honestly, you can't argue with what you saw and what the numbers say. It says, I mean, the fact that the new signing came in on his full league debut and did that, it says a lot about the rest of the squad. You know, it's just, again, it's too bad that Garnacho just flat out refused to find his runs. I think that also, again, like we said earlier, there were times where Dorgu and Dallo on the right weren't able to get forward as much because Spurs were kind of overloading in the attack and we were kind of penned in the back 5. But again, it sort of kept our wingbacks a little deeper. But I still thought it was excellent on the day from Dorgu. Much better than what we were used to seeing on the left. But Darko, big up. Good to see you. So you guys let me know what you thought of Dorgu's debut, because I thought there was a definite recognizable difference in the way we were playing on that left side especially. So moving on, number 3, agitated Amorim. Has Ruben Amorim ever not been in a full-on squat since he took over at United? There was a point where the camera panned over to him when he was just talking to his coaches on the bench. There was an empty chair, but he was full-on squat right next to him. Like, is this just how you live your life? Like, go to a restaurant? No, I don't need a chair. I'm going to squat. Like, it's fine. The guy's head, though, is constantly down, or it's constantly in his hands. He looks more and more exhausted and just stressed every single time I see him. He just looks just like he's shaking his head. He's frustrated. To be fair, I can't imagine what it's like having barely any time to train. And then when you do finally get a decent chunk of time of change, 4 of your senior players just pull up injured in training, including our best attacker. That's got to be frustrating. But he does carry a bit of the responsibility for this one, mostly because I didn't see anything from Amorim to make changes to impact the game. I get that it was a close game. It was only 1-0, and we were getting wave after wave of opportunity. I get that, but I do think maybe making a change a bit sooner could have maybe been the difference on the day. Like, no subs at all until the 91st minute. Now, I get the substitutes were all kids, but, like, what was the point of all this? I'm sure, like me, you guys were all screaming at him to make some of these changes, to bring on one of the youngsters. And then when he did, it was baffling. Like, right decision, completely, like, 10 minutes too late, in my opinion. Like, what is Cheeto coming on for Casemiro going to do with less than 3 minutes to go? Like, doesn't make sense to me. Like, if the plan was to get another attacker in the box with some of those sustained attacks we were getting, that sub was about 10 minutes too late. Put Cheeto on some Donnie minutes, man. Rob, welcome, says Dorgu looks an excellent signing. Great engine, looks comfortable on the ball. Yeah, I thought Dorgu did really well yesterday. Darko says seeing Onana sipping water from his water bottle after every blunder is now unbearable. Maybe it's like alcohol or something, and he's just trying to calm his nerves. I don't know. Darko says he's a great actor, Sean. Darko, Amorim trying to tell us it's an impossible job with these players. Well, literally, we've all been saying it. I don't know why when the manager says it, it's a big deal. But Amorim had some thoughts on the lack of subs after the match. He said, I felt the team was good during the game, and I don't feel the need to change. Then Cheeto is that player, one long ball, and he could make the difference. Cheeto in the box is very clever. But then Amorim also said it's the hardest competition in the world. I'm trying to be careful with them in this case being the youngsters. So I don't get it. I don't like playing kids just for the sake of playing them, just for the sake of maintaining a record, just for the sake of being able to be like, oh, play the kids. I've wanted to play the kids, and I do think some of them are ready. But there's a balance right there. But I would have liked to see some minutes from these youngsters, not just some Donny Van de Beek minutes for Cheeto back when the game's pretty much wrapped up at that point. Like I said in the preview, what you get from youngsters is energy, precociousness. There's no fear for a lot of them. And then you also get that desperation from them, that urge, that need to really grasp that opportunity and prove themselves, to the fans, to the managers, to the teammates, to themselves, and impress. Sure, you're going to get inconsistency over a larger sample size with youngsters. That's just part of it, and that's to be expected. So no one should complain about that. But you also get a lot of the characteristics from some of these young players that you're not going to get from everyone else. The energy, the effort, the running, like that no fear, that no like cautiousness. They're just going to give it their all because they have to. Plus, these youngsters are complete unknowns to our opponents from an analysis standpoint. It's not like Spurs are able to sit there and do oppositional analysis on Morehouse and Fletcher and Cheeto and Sekou Kone. They don't know anything about these players. And so there's a whole unknown X factor there that we really could have taken advantage of. Again, I thought it was a little hesitant, a little bit defeatist from amorim, but it kind of caught the feeling like, oh, well, we'll see what happens since we're not going to score. We'll just do something like that and see what happens. It's really, really frustrating. Darko says Amor has employed 3 people to look at the laptop. I mean, they're looking at the data, they're looking at the maps, they're looking at everything. Darko says Sean, is Dorgu's overlapping hindered by the presence of Garnacho? Yeah, we were talking about that. Garnacho was just flat out refusing to pass to Dorgu. I don't understand why that is. Really, really annoying that was not happening, because it just seemed like Garnacho was just using Dorgu as a decoy the whole time, when Dorgu's left foot, just a little bit of a simple little layoff to Dorgu, could flash that ball back across the face of goal. But Garnacho just wanted to cut in and take the shot himself, which is what we've seen from Garnacho for many years now. George says, I really like Dorgu as a player, and he's an upgrade as left wing back. Amorim I like a lot, but he has no credit at United amongst fans. Amorim looks more stressed than Ten Hag after 3 years. He's doing odd things. And this is the thing I said yesterday. Amorim, we have to also remember that Amorim is a young manager, so he's going to make mistakes. Now, the trick is what you learn from those mistakes. It is what it is. I get that he wants to stick to his system, but again, any manager is going to want to do that. Every manager is going to have belief in their system. But when you're a young manager, you're learning. Part of that process is learning from mistakes, learning from decisions, looking back at a match. And you have to then sometimes change things moving forward as you learn. You have to be able to be humble. You have to be honest. You have to be reflective, and you have to be willing to learn as you go. You don't have that foundation after, 15, 20 years of management where, you know what works. You're still learning that. Is Amorim doing that? You guys let me know what you thought. Bach says Ahmad didn't pass to Dorgu versus Leicester, and it could be a little bit of unfamiliarity. Obviously, this is the first time Dorgu's played on the left, so Garnacho's side. Maybe Garnacho's not used to that. There's not that time yet to do that. Similar to Ahmad against Leicester, I don't know, but I liked what I saw. Bach says Dorgu is a developmental player. Final ball attacking option hasn't been significantly upgraded as it stands. I mean, 5 out of 5 crosses, passes into the final third, touches in the box. I mean, for me, that's a big improvement on Dalot, especially when you consider that natural left footer on the left side is still pretty good. Then he says Garnacho hasn't played with a natural left back in over 12 months. He never really had that outlet in the past because the player never moved like Dorgu. Yeah, it's nice to not have to like with Dalot, or we saw it with Ashley Young too when he played left back. You have to have left footers in these situations, unless you play a completely different system that uses inverted fullbacks. But having to wait for that right-footed left-sider to have to cut in and then pick a pass with the right foot, it kills momentum. It kills rhythm when you're moving, when you're running. So your wingers can't just naturally get a ball on the run. They've got to do this, and then they got to do that, and it's just this is why I said in that video the other week, play Dorgu in his left-sided position. We're going to see a bit quicker attack, and we saw that. He's still 20. It's his second match. Really just his first full match. He had a 45 minutes against Leicester on the right-hand side. This was give him time. We can't. I know we're all frustrated. I know we're all impatient. I know we're all sick and tired of this shit. But that doesn't have anything to do with Amorim. Doesn't have anything to do with Dorgu. Let's keep them out of it, and let's be patient with them. Just give them some time. Danny says he can't hesitate, just play the pass. Yeah, it was just put it in the danger zone at that point. If you got the ball, just put it in the danger zone. At that point, it's on the strikers. If you're putting a good ball in, let the attackers figure it out. You can't ask anything more than that. So, we saw Cole Palmer yesterday. If you watched that Chelsea game, he was putting balls in the box. There's nobody was getting on him. There's nothing more you can do at that point. So, Darko says, Sean Amorim was supposed to steady the ship, but in fact is sinking it. He went for the spectacular instead of keeping it simple. I think we're putting a lot of unfair expectations on Amorim. I think every time we appoint a manager, every time we bring in a player, for some reason the fans are like, all right, that's the difference maker. We can't do that because it hasn't happened, Darko. We've appointed how many managers now in 10 years, and none of them have managed to steady the ship for more than a couple of years. So the problem is not the managers. The problem is not simply, the solution is not buying one or two players. It's not the way this works. If you don't sack a manager mid-season if things are going well, like no one's been able to steady the ship. It's just the way it's been. Like it's not, Amorim has more that he can do. Amorim does have a big job to do, and Amorim will have to prove it, but no one's going to come in, and we're already down in 12th, 13th when he came in. Like, this was a big job on that he was going to have to do. And so, again, this is what, 6, 7 managers in a decade, a little over a decade. It's not the manager. It's definitely not the manager. And like Danny says, it's the environment and the culture. This club is poisonous. Poisonous. It is like a toxic fume. As soon as you walk on into Old Trafford, walk into Carrington, there is a fume that infects you. It is a cancer. I don't know what it is, but it is what it is. And we've seen it impact players. We've seen it impact coaches. We saw it affect directors of football because Dan Ashworth and Ralph Ragnick got thrown out on their ass. Like, there's something so deeply poisonous and rotten at this club. It has to get fixed, and that's not an easy job. Like, if you ever watch UFC, and I'm not a big UFC guy, but it's like an example I give to clients all the time when it comes to having to go back and revisit old shit in order to find healing. So there's a UFC fighter, he's probably retired, his name is Forrest Griffin. If you ever watch UFC, when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he showed off this part of his arm that he had broken a while ago, but he never was able to fix it because he couldn't afford it. So he could use it, but you could see that the bone is still like not healed. So this club is like that. This club has been broken, and we've just the owners have just kind of tried to paper over the cracks, try to put a little Band-Aid and some Tylenol over that broken arm, not really wanting to put down the effort, the money, really do a good job, a proper professional, healthy job. You have to re-break that now in order for it to heal, and that's going to suck. It's going to be painful. It's going to require more recovery time, but it will heal properly. That's the way you can do it. We relied too much, this club, on just big money spendings, big wages, and just thinking that a manager in and of himself was going to be the solution. That's not how proper clubs are run. That's not how you do this. You used to be able to get away with it, and this is why Fergie needs to get so much more credit. This is why Fergie's always the GOAT. What Fergie did, no one other manager can do. No other manager can do that. Pep couldn't do that. Nobody can do that. It's just the way it is, man. Box says maybe the sink is not savable. I don't know if it is. We can talk. I mean, there's a whole chapter in this book, Edge, behind me about the teamwork index, cohesion, about literally the statistical correlation between managers coming from one team to another. When a new manager comes into a team that has poor cohesion, and I think we can all say over the last couple of years this team has poor cohesion, the results are not going to be great. That's just the way it is. So go check out that book if you guys ever get a second. Danny says it's cursed. It is cursed. And it doesn't help that we're united, that the pressure is 1,000 times more than any other club, that the fishbowl that you exist in at United is just the whole media, the whole world. That's why my channel is called United versus Everybody, because it is back against the wall whenever you are part of this club. Danny says, I blame Pogba, voodoo shit. Oh no, Danny's account got hacked by Graham Souness. Uh-oh. Gold says, Sporting is smaller than Ajax, and so Ten Hag had more experience at a bigger club. Saying he had experience and seen worse at Sporting was very naive. He doesn't realize the size of the club. And maybe he didn't realize, just sometimes it's hard to, you can say it, like you can, as a manager from the outside looking in, you can say, yeah, it's a big club. Sometimes you don't quite realize how big it is until you take the job. And then like we just spent 10 minutes talking about, there's a lot about this club that goes on behind the scenes that from a deeper level, like the toxicity that you'll never know until you're in that situation. This is the reason why Jose Mourinho said finishing second with United was his greatest achievement, because again, you don't realize a lot of what you're walking into until you're into it. You can read what the media puts out, what the fans say. You can watch the results and say, oh, there's shit right now. Sometimes you really have no idea what off the pitch stuff, behind the scenes stuff is until you get in here. It's just ridiculous. Darko says, we can go to that deep next time. Today, let's talk about Amorim's mistakes last night and the wrong decisions he made. Box says, don't think LVG and Mourinho knew the size of United, to be fair. I think Mourinho did. Mourinho has been at some big clubs. Louis van Gaal, I think, was almost a little too old school for his own good, but I think Louis van Gaal's problem was he played a very stereotypical kind of Dutch style of football, and while it wasn't necessarily bad, I mean, we got a lot of bad results, but I think it just wasn't what United fans wanted. So, but on Amorim, I mean, as far as playing the youngsters of making some of those changes, I get we're not getting any. We had a lot of injuries, but we're not getting those injured players back anytime soon. So the youngsters are going to need minutes at some point. Probably should have been a little bit in this one. We had an opportunity, maybe that energy, that precociousness, that fight to prove yourself, that could have been the difference with some of these chances. If you say that Cheeto's that a player who just maybe needs that one long ball to get a chance, and why not bring him on 10 minutes earlier when we were in a period of sustained pressure, when we were keeping the ball higher up the pitch? Doesn't make sense to me. Amorim needs to find a way to make it work. That's his job. So as unfair as that may be, that's his job. That's just the way it is. Because 4 wins, 2 draws, and 8 losses in 14 matches at United is just it's not good. Not even just United. That's not good at any club. He's got to do better. He might be stressed, and you might have walked into the worst situation at the worst time, but he has to figure it out. He has no choice. He's got to figure out something. And like I said, I get that he probably wants to stick to his system, and to a degree, I totally back that. I totally get it. Any manager is going to feel the same, but again, when you're a young manager, you're still learning, and part of that process is learning from mistakes. So he's got to make sure he's doing that as well. Ten Hag tried his system and then changed and then still got sacked. The problem is not the managers. This club is poisonous. Any way you want to define that, any way you want to apply that, this club is poisonous. It just is what it is. Darko says these people come from money. They know they will get sacked. I think that's a bit of an oversimplification, to be fair. Amorim is a young coach. He wants to progress as a manager. He comes because he wants. I mean, it's United. We still have pull. We got the guy out of Champions League football and an excellent sporting side to come to a shit show in Europa League football mid-season. I mean, and there's also that, whether you're a player or manager, there's also that factor of, I want to be the one who can turn this around. I want to be the guy who's done that. And maybe you call that ego. Maybe you call that like challenging yourself, taking on that challenge, whatever you want to call it. There's still always sometimes that factor involved. George says, Amorim, if he survives and goes on preseason, will realize the magnitude of the club worldwide. Benny McCarthy spoke about the reaction in the States, the sections of airports closed for them, and fanfare. Yeah, we love United in the States. There are people here, like people with the Red Devils, Detroit Red Devils group from the scarf behind me, who will go to these friendlies in the States. I've gone to when they played Ann Arbor, and then I did a Chelsea Real Madrid game because that's like 20 minutes for me, and it's 114,000 seat stadium, and it's packed for these matches. People love them. United is huge here, biggest club in the world, biggest fan base in the world. You just can't deny it. So. But yeah, it is a entirely different animal. And Amorim said as much after just the first week when he was doing all these interviews. I've seen it said on the channel, like he loves the spotlight. He's playing for the camera. I don't think Amorim does. He's basically complained about how much of this stuff he's having to do, and I think it's adding to the stress. It's kind of like doing the channel. I joke about it all the time. Like when we have a shit match, then I'm like, well, I get to go talk about it again. Like Amorim has a shit performance. And he's got to go sit here and give about 18,000 interviews and get asked the same questions about Rashford and club and ticket prices and sacking and all this shit. Like no other club has to deal with that shit. And it's not his fault. But again, he also has to realize that this is the nature of being at United. This is what you're going to have to deal with. So if he hasn't, he's going to have to learn real fast that that's part of it. And if he's not up for it, it's something he's going to have to look at himself and take on or take off. It's really up to him. Danny says, Obi should have come on 70th, 75th minute. Yeah, at least maybe even just the 80th or even just anything other than the 90th. Like, if that was the plan, if you're going to turn around and say, like, he can do that with one long ball, then bring him on sooner. We were putting balls in the box left and right. It makes no sense. Darko says, every young player dreams of a debut goal, and Amorim just killed that dream. He didn't. I think that just because you don't get a debut goal, I don't think that. I think that's, again, I think we're being a little bit oversimplification there, Darko. I think that it's, you guys know I don't like making things so black or white. Like, it's not like Cheetos. I mean, Sekou Kone didn't even get on the pitch, and he was putting out social media posts just thanking, like, the opportunity just to be a part of this first team, let alone make your debut for United in the Premier League. That's a big deal, and I don't think anyone's going to go too harshly on Obi for not scoring in 3 minutes less than. But I don't think he killed the dream. The dream is still there. He's going to score for United, and he's going to be fine. Bach says Amorim's job isn't to fulfill a young player's dream. Amorim's job is to get results, to get the best from these players that he has, and he's got to turn something around. Because I'm not seriously worried about relegation, but I am not happy with where we're at, and we have to start turning these results. If we could get 2 wins on the bounce in the league, I'd be a happy camper. But I don't know where that's coming from, because these guys, these players, where we're at right now has got me worried about going to Goodison Park next weekend, because this result drops us to 15th. Thanks, Everton, by the way, for winning your match. You're not supposed to win matches, but we are just 2 points above Wolves right now. We are 12 points above relegation. So again, we have to start going on a shit run of form, and everybody in a relegation battle is going to need to go on a massive run of form. And I don't necessarily see all that happening. Did anybody have us winning this one from the prediction of the day? Did anybody think we were going to get a result against Spurs? I mean, add them to the list of bogey teams for us right now, right? Make room, Brighton. Make room, Bournemouth. Spurs are coming in hot right now. To be honest, I mean, as it is, I'm pretty much resigned to a bottom of the table finish, a la Chelsea from like, what, 8, 9, 7, 8 years ago? I don't remember when that was. I think probably looking at like 12th is probably where we're going to finish. But this is the worst I've ever seen. And it's more than just about what's going on the pitch. It's more about the table. It's more about the players. It's more about the results. It's everything right now. The negativity, just the media, the PR, all of it is just the worst I've seen. It is all just a cloud of poisonous negativity. And it's infecting. When I say it's infectious, it's affecting the fan base. We're all getting less and less patient with coach. I mean, people are already Amorim out, and he's been here a couple months. Like, this, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I don't know, like, something's got to change. I don't know where that change starts. I don't know what needs, like, something's got to change, because it's infectious. Fuck, it might be like maybe it's a bit of good for Amorim and everybody to get some room to train and room to breathe and just not have European football next season. Maybe that could be a good start. I don't know. It's just one thing out there. Problem is, Adidas is not going to like it if we're not in Europe, and with PSR killing us right now too. The last thing we need is a sponsor pulling funds. So it's a shit situation. Guess we'll just have to win the Europa League, right? That's just the answer. But again, there are some positives, because even though he didn't score, even though it was only a couple minutes, it was a Premier League debut for Cheeto, which, again, we can celebrate that. Maybe that means we might see him in the next FC25 update, but I doubt it. EA, if you're watching, fucking add Aiden Heaven, please. Jeez. But it is Everton next. And again, if you ask me right now, even that fixture, I don't know if we have a decent chance of 3 points with the way things are right now. But the fact that that's what we're saying right now, that's what we are, it says a lot. But we'll preview that one a little bit more in depth later on this week. Again, the Academy play Wolves, or not Wolves, Fulham, I think, this afternoon. So you can watch that if you're able to. Anthony scored a banger for Real Betis, so hopefully raises that price tag a little bit more in the summer. It just is what it is. The curse is real. What's everyone say here? Bach says they'll be blaming Amorim for the weather next. Yeah. Or Jurgen Klopp will be blaming Amorim from the weather, because Jurgen Klopp likes to blame weather. Darko says, was that humiliation to Casemiro by Amorim on order of Ratcliffe? 90-minute sub. I don't understand how it's humiliation. Darko, you're making a lot of big leaps with some of these opinions, and it's fine. You can have your opinion, but it's easy to look at one thing and then say that that's what that means when there's a lot of other stuff going on. I don't think it was humiliating. Casemiro's played for 90 minutes for the first time in a while. He has barely played, and he lasted 90 minutes, and he kept on in the second half, even though he looked like a second yellow waiting to happen after already picking up a yellow. Like, he's a professional footballer. He's been subbed off many times before in his career. He didn't even make the matchday squad for the FA Cup final last season. So I personally don't find that humiliating. Getting subbed off is about the most normal thing you're going to get as a footballer. It just is what it is, unless you're a keeper. George says, I'm not even sure Madrid has as many brands lining up to sign with United. No, unknown players all of a sudden start getting endorsement deals from clothing lines, sportswear, etc. on arrival. It's because we're the biggest club in the world, George. It's just the way it is. Hopefully, like we spoke about the other day in that deep dive on this Mark Armstrong guy, hopefully him coming in can help us out with the finances. I think that, honestly, I'll say it again, Sir Jim just needs to sell Nice. If he sold Nice right now, that could literally pay off the debt right away, and they maybe take us one step closer to getting the Glazers out of the club, because he bought Nice for like 100 million. I think it's worth like 300 million. You could probably get a little bit more out of that and take a huge chunk out of the debt, if not, because we're just paying interest. We're not actually paying off the debt. But if you sold Nice now, that could all go towards the debt and be completely done, and it would leave him with one less club to have to worry about managing. Let someone else take over Nice. Focus on United, use Lausanne Sport as a feeder club and an outlet for our youngsters to go and get minutes. And that can be it. If that's, to me, that would symbolize that this is what your focus is. And that's what your priority is. I get that it's not your debt, and no one, especially a minority shareholder, is going to come in and want to pay off someone else's debt that they accrued. If y'all got married to someone who had mountains of student loan and credit card debt, would you be super thrilled about putting your money towards that shit? Probably not. And that's still a marriage. You probably wouldn't be too happy about it. You'd probably be a little frustrated with them for having that debt. I get it. But the problem is, you're the owner. You knew all this going in. You have to figure out ways to make it work. It just is what it is. Danny says, not a chance for winning Europa. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but that's the only way we're getting European football next year at this point. We have to win Europa, or maybe we can win the FA Cup again. Right? Probably not, though. Boxes must be Casemiro FC. It's just, I get it. Again, this is why I wait overnight, because if you imagine some of the way some of us would be reacting right now had this been something yesterday, this is why I wait a little bit. Everybody can chill a little bit. Everybody can calm down. But I got no problem with other opinions. I really doesn't, like, I'm not out here just to try to, harsh on anybody or anything. Like, have your opinion. We'll talk about it. I'm going to react to it. I might disagree with you. That just is what it is. But it doesn't mean stop having opinions. It doesn't mean that you have to just go along. The last thing I want is an echo chamber. Feel free to throw them out there. I'm just here to facilitate the conversation and get this conversation going here. So we'll be back later on this week for the Everton preview. We'll obviously try to come back a little later on today for just the news, the transfer talk stuff. So keep a lookout for that one. Remember to hit the bell to make sure you don't miss out. Please like the video if you haven't yet. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. I appreciate everybody getting involved today. I love having these conversations. So trying to let it ruin your day. Stay warm, stay safe. And I will be back to talk to you guys a little later on this afternoon with some big talk on some of the news come out today, because we've been linked to a couple of young players. And I want your thoughts on that. So take it easy. Thanks again. I will talk to you later. Bye.